Welcome to the Bulletproof for BJJ podcast. On today's episode, we're going to be discussing the best way to roll. And it's not necessarily what you think. We're going to explain why flow rolls turn into war, how dancing and understanding partnerships can enhance the way you train. Also, why porrada blocks your ability to actually learn, and the fear of failure is holding you back. And last but not least, we take a secret tip from a world-class wrestler that enabled Lachlan Giles to become an ADCC champion, and we unpack it for you so that your jiu-jitsu training can level up. Let's get into the episode. And if you're interested in this kind of content, please like, subscribe, and follow on whatever platform you're getting this.
There's a bunch of things that will go into towards making your jiu-jitsu better. You want to have good training partners. You want to have a great coach. You want to take the right approach to your training and flow rolling, that kind of thing, what we're talking about today. But here's the other side of it, and this is maintaining a strong, durable body that allows you to practice jiu-jitsu for the long run, keep injuries at a minimum, and feel healthy and strong. And we have an app that is designed to walk you through, step by step, how to build that body. All you need to do is go to the App Store on whatever device you have, search for Bulletproof for BJJ, download the app, and you can start training today for free. You're going to get 2 weeks for free, and you can jump into any program. In those programs, JT and I are going to guide you from beginner to expert on how to get strong and how to get flexible so that you can stay in the game. And if you really like it, you can stick around for the long run, get coached by us, and become a beast on the mats. Hope to see you there.
The best way to roll, especially if you want to flow roll, is to roll hydrated. Sodi's got you covered with the best mix of sodium, potassium, and magnesium. You will stay strong, energetic, and supple when you're on the mats. Go to sodi, sodii.com.au and use the code Bulletproof15 to get 15% off so you can get in the flow and stay hydrated. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another Bulletproof for BJJ podcast. I'm JT, and I'm here with the handsome Joey, the Eat to Win Joey. And look at that handsome shirt. Get the mic cords out of the way. Can you see that, folks? That is spectac.
Eat to win.
It's
a lifestyle.
It is a lifestyle. It's surprisingly not made by Joey himself, made by a fan and follower of the Eat to Win Nation.
That's right.
So expect to see it coming soon to stores near you. Mass production.
An ETW Nation sound out.
Shoo shoo. Now, we're going to talk about the best way to roll. Now, this might sound subjective, but we've got some facts to back up why there is a certain way you should roll if you're trying to get better at jiu-jitsu. And
People like, hold on a second, this podcast is subjective?
Well, imagine, right? Imagine it could be opinion-based.
What, you guys were scientists and shit?
Two meatheads.
Black belt scientists.
Just talking opinions on the internet. What? And why do I say this? Because it's very interesting to me that we all know in BJJ, if you say to someone, hey man, we'll just roll light. Or hey, you just want to have a flow roll. It means war. That's what it means. You know, when you first start, you don't know. When you're a white belt, you're like, oh, this person wants to roll me light. Next minute, they're tacketing you. They got their knee on your neck. They're neck riding you. You're like, oh, what did I do? I just wanted to warm up. And then you're getting up. So here's the thing, folks. That is not necessarily the best way to roll. And we got to think about this as to jiu-jitsu is competitive. So obviously you're like, oh, I want to win. I want to be competitive. I got to roll hard.
Yeah, we get rewarded for winning.
Yeah. And I
want to tap this.
And there's could be said in many different spheres of life. And so
watch.
It requires a lot of determination, especially if they're better than you or you've been beaten by them before. And there's a lot to be said for the hard work and determination that goes into hard rolls.
Yeah.
And there's something satisfying about hard rolls too, right?
Yeah.
It's
the best.
It's the best because there's a mixture of relief and satisfaction. Like if I think about some of the hardest rolls we've had, I get to the end of the round and I'm like, God, I wish I could have done more, but I'm also like, I think I'm maxed out. Like you kind of hit a critical point of being like, you know what? And even people who don't like each other, like I would say, for example, some of my hardest rolls ever have been against Ben Hodgkinson. And for a long time, I've hated that guy's guts. But at the end of a hard roll, we could both like, there was respect. It was like,
put down the swords and shields for a moment.
Well, we both went so hard on each other. We both recognized that not many people can sustain that.
Yeah.
Like that, you don't find many people who can just consistently go hard head to head all the time.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a special thing where it's kind of like an unspoken agreement too, isn't it? That this is what we do.
Yeah, it's that kind of John Wick-esque agreement between assassins.
Yeah, I really think that the going hard thing is like it's the Fight Club aspect of jiu-jitsu. Where and you know, if you haven't seen Fight Club, shit.
What you doing?
But it's like you go, and whether you beat the shit out of someone or they beat the shit out of you, the spiritual enlightenment that comes from that, right?
Yeah.
That's what it's all about. And that is what the porrada of jiu-jitsu is.
Yeah.
Whether you're the hammer or the nail.
No, it's the expression of intensity.
Yeah.
Which is it's a beautiful thing in and of itself. But it is holding back your jiu-jitsu. Shock. Why do I say this? Let's talk about being competitive versus being creative and learning. So here's the thing. When you're being competitive, you're playing your A game. Like, for example, let's say you've passed guard. There's only, 30 seconds left in the round. And you're like, oh, could I go to mount? Or could I take the back? But you're like, or could I just cross-face the hell out of them and keep them here? Because technically, I have won. That idea of like, I don't want to risk losing.
Yeah.
Even though it's all imaginary, made up nonsense. Because I was able to get around their legs and pin them, I am the winner. That's not actually, there's a skill in that, but that's not much jiu-jitsu is done.
It's not furthering your jiu-jitsu so much.
No. And if you look at the most boring jiu-jitsu matches, it's generally when two people are just not prepared to concede anything. You just see people who just...
The double guard pull.
Or the no guard pull.
Or the refusing to take down. Yeah.
And just locked up. And it's classically in white
seen
belts.
A few ADCC matches like that.
Yeah, either at the lowest level or at the highest level.
Yeah.
Actually, good friend of mine, Big Mick, shout out, love you, Big Mick. He won the absolute gold medal at the Rio Open. Yes, I believe, because of a double DQ on the other side of the bracket in the semi-final.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I think it was between Big Mac, who is a cannonball of a man, and another famous...
Sounds like Big Mick Temu.
Oh, bro, he was it's so wide. Big Mac is legendary Brazilian super heavyweight. He was going up against a judo black belt, whose name I've forgotten, it escapes me right now.
Big judo.
Yeah, big judo, big ippon. And neither of them they were trying to take each other down, but they both had grips and they wouldn't break them. And so after a while, the refs kept giving them penalties and eventually double DQ.
Yeah.
And so Mick Bradbury, that shit.
Yeah, sick.
He actually won his category, so he had double gold.
Man.
He won his category and then he also won the absolute.
A fair gift.
It was great. But kind of disappointing for jiu-jitsu fans, especially, that experience where you're watching a match, a competitive match, but no jiu-jitsu gets done. And that's kind of, it's just a stalemate. And you're like, it's boring.
Yeah, it's probably a bit of a, just thinking for a lot of our listeners who maybe haven't watched a lot of jiu-jitsu or have only really watched it recently.
Yeah.
They probably are not so much aware of this style of jiu-jitsu, which was typically a characteristic of gi jiu-jitsu, right?
Sure, but like you said, you see it at ADCC too, right?
You do see it, but I think now, particularly now, there's a bit of money and a bit of notoriety. The sport's starting to reward like performance.
Oh no, definitely.
And so you got a lot, like people are finishers. You got a lot of people trying to finish, like the Tackett's and the Nicky Rods of the world. And
sure, but even if you throw to
Gordon,
like J Rod versus Giancarlo Bordoni, that was a pretty boring match at the ADCC. The final of the middleweight or middle heavy.
I think that's a bit harsh.
No.
I love that match.
Not much.
I didn't love it. I thought it was a great match.
Much happened. Well, like...
Yeah, but they were neck and neck.
They were trying... But what I'm saying is this. In a competitive environment, when you have two people playing their A game, often you get stalemates because this person's so good at this and this person's so good at that, they kind of nullify each other.
Yeah.
And so if we can like peel back from, say, elite level jiu-jitsu, because now I'm just speaking more to learning jiu-jitsu in general, that if you play your A game, sometimes you don't do a lot of jiu-jitsu. You don't practice the skills you learn because you're just trying not to get swept or you're just trying not to get passed. And so you end up obviously working your ass off, but what skills did you practice or implement?
Yeah.
And so this is where I'm going to say rolling balls to the wall hard is not the way to go. This is not the best way to roll. And actually, the best way to roll is actually flow rolling.
Just stay on that point of why the hard stuff's not the best way to roll.
It is a great way to roll in terms of developing a competitive gear, but you are more likely to be injured. It takes a much bigger toll on your body, and there's no real room to be creative unless you are far technically superior than your counterpart, right? I mean, yeah, you do see like a Fabrizio Andre or like a Mika Galvan doing a flying technique or something where you're like, how can they do that against the highest level guys? Well, they are so technically, they're so elite, they can pull out wild shit like that.
Yeah.
And now if you're someone who likes to do crazy flying techniques and stuff like that, I mean, good luck to you. But that's not most of us. I've never been that kind of a person throughout my whole career. I'm much more of a grinder.
I don't know if I've ever even seen your feet leave the floor.
That's possibly true. That's probably true. Even when I'm in guard, my feet are on the floor somehow. But it's just because my legs are so heavy, Joe. Why you gotta do me like that?
I didn't
as a big leg human. As a big leg
get
human.
it.
How you gonna do me
I'm
like
down
that?
here watching,
My feet on the ground too.
Yeah.
But this said, why am I angry? Because I've actually had, I don't know if it's a fair criticism or not. People say, man, I would never want to roll you. You just be a to roll. I'm like, oh, I roll pretty nice actually. Like I'm match and mirror. If you bring the heat, I bring the heat. But overall, because I'm not trying to be a world champion in jiu-jitsu.
I'd say it's maybe
I'm not trying
a heat level higher than how you describe yourself.
No, not at all. I mean, I think you can.
Let me speak as someone who's rolled with you and spoken to others who have rolled with you.
Let me speak as someone who's rolled you, mate. Like it's.
Well, yeah, but I'm not saying
it's
I'm
match
not saying
and
I'm
mirror.
a walk in the park.
No, it's a match and mirror situation.
I'm
the heat.
I'm a really nice guy,
El
just except for the
Presidente.
times when I'm not a nice guy.
Bullshit. As the president of the Eat to Win Nation, Joey's coming to dominate. No, we are very similar in the way. It's match and mirror. Like it's just you work, I work, and
you know what it is
up.
with you, bro. You have a it's like a personal affront. If I like manage to score some points on your right pass or whatever, it's like you take it as a personal insult.
Who doesn't? Who doesn't feel that way?
I don't.
What are you talking about?
I'm come back trying to even the score, but
Well,
you're
that's
like,
what I'm saying.
But you're
What's
like,
the difference?
it's like
What
I tried
is
to.
the difference?
It's like I tried to take food out of your kid's mouth.
I don't have a kid.
You're like, I'm
it's like
settling this
like you
score.
It's like you try to take food out of my mouth, which is possibly even more dangerous. But no. The reason why I'm saying this is because people would be like, well, you're Mr. Intensity. Why would you advocate for this? Why would I say, oh, flow rolling, guys, it's the way.
That's what you guys should do.
No. Let me explain in terms of learning, because this is actually kind of revealed to me through a top level black belt, one of Cabrinha's black belt, an older gentleman who was very respected, and I think he was like 5-stripe black belt. He rolled me when I was a blue belt, and I was bringing that blue belt, trying to be world champion heat, and he just kind of let me work. He didn't crush me. He let me do my thing, but then he countered me and he moved around me, and I was like, wow, that guy let me do jiu-jitsu. Whereas so many of those black belts just crushed the life out of me. Didn't give me an inch. And I was so grateful to him because I actually got to try some stuff, but I also got to experience him undoing what I was trying to do, which also made me think, which meant that in that roll, it was only like 7 minutes, 8-minute roll. I actually learned a ton from him allowing me to work, right? Now, he was obviously very technically superior to me, but he wasn't trying very hard. I was trying really hard, but he was good enough to just kind of keep me at bay but as a result, just that one roll, I think I learned more in that one roll than the whole camp, than like 10 days of just porrada. And this is what I'm trying to say. If you're someone who's trying to get better at jiu-jitsu, and I believe we are all trying to get better at jiu-jitsu, even though some of us may have just picked one game and they want to just stick to that game, and that's fine. Ultimately, if you are trying to get better at jiu-jitsu, rolling lighter is a better way to go, and there's a number of reasons why, and I want to unpack that.
Very good.
So yeah, you're about that. You're not going to counterpoint me on this, Joe?
No, I agree so far.
Okay, cool. All right, we'll see. We'll see how long this goes. We'll see how long we can stretch this agreement window.
I think you're delusional in your own rolling style, but I agree with your point.
It's only because that's how I roll you, Joe. If you look at me rolling anyone else, it's not necessarily like that.
Adam Childs?
What are you talking about? Like heavyweight black belt? Someone who outweighs me?
I've seen you go there.
It's match and mirror, bro. It's match and mirror. You see me roll a lightweight blue belt? Totally different story, man.
But what about when he passes your guard?
No one passes my guard, bro.
What
are
about
you talking about? See, we don't train together enough. I think this is the problem, fam. Joey just hasn't seen me in my more gracious, gentle moments. But that's all right. That's okay. It is what it is. What I wanted to say here is this. When we look at the fear of failure, which is often what stops us doing something which we're unsure of, this limits our ability to do something unfamiliar, but that blocks learning. So maybe you've spent a bit of time working on a new choke or a new armbar or guillotine, whatever the hell it is. And you're like, oh, but if I do it, maybe I'll give up the takedown points, or I'll end up in a bad spot. And then you end up not developing because of this fear of failure. But what is the failure? Like, define failure, right? Like, you not getting better is the failure. And hence, your fixation, or our fixation as jiu-jitsu folks, on winning and rolling hard means we don't try new shit. And that limits development. So if you have an agreement, and this is why I wanted to talk about why flow rolls turn into wars. It's like two dance partners doing two different dances. One person's just trying to like, yeah, nice easy samba. The other person is like stomp raving. And you're like, nah, bro, I'm not doing that dance. And then you stomp on someone's foot and they're like, all right, bro, you want to do that stomp rave thing? Well, I'm going to just start headbanging too. And it's like, oh, hey, there's headbutts included. All right, here we go. And then the poor communication on what flow means between two people is what makes it war. It's like, oh, you want to do it like that? And then, oh, you want to do it like that? And it's like, ooh, the egos go up, the game goes up. And then it ends up not being a very creative learning experience.
Yep.
So that's what I'm trying to say. If you have, and this is very kind of training partner dependent, you need a training partner, not Joseph Worthington, who is prepared to work with you at a 30%, 40% cadence, and is also prepared to exchange position. Because that's the thing too, if you kind of give up the sweep, so you work your guard and then you're trying to do a thing and then they give up a bit of a sweep, and you actually get more movement and more activity in the roll. You see it with wrestlers. They do like a flow style wrestling where they're allowing the person to get to the leg and then they're countering and they're moving around a lot. It's not like they're just chilling, but by enabling their partner to work, that forces them to then work on something else. And it's this a greater exchange of technique, which is what I'm advocating for with the flow wrestling piece.
Yeah, I think one of the big problems with flow rolling is that no one tells you how to do it.
Yeah.
And so it's like, oh, flow roll, it's like a gentle roll. Just do that. And you kind of expected to know that. But what the dilemma, I think, comes about when it comes to, like, that's all fine in a given transition. But if you're going to potentially submit me now or score points on me, what am I meant to do as a flow roller? Am I meant to defend it in a flowy way, or am I meant to like not get tapped?
Yeah.
Right. And I think people have a hard time turning that off.
Sure.
And that's the big dilemma, isn't it? Whereas if someone's like, hey, we're doing flow roll, here's how it works. You can let them pass your guard. You can let them, like, even a submission is fine. Like, It's about movement. It's about creating opportunities. Yeah, I think if that was more articulated for folks.
And also intensities. Intensities vary between people. So my 40% is not necessarily someone else's 40%. they're like, well, you want to go 100%, do you? It's like, well,
Yeah.
I'm not going 100%, bro.
Yeah.
You know, and that it's a miscommunication. And I think that's where having a reliable training partner or training partners where you both get what the speed is that you can keep to it.
Yeah.
That you know when it's getting a little bit too much or it's like, oh no, we can work a bit faster. Or even maybe taking submissions out, you know, just rolling
just
for
movement.
position. And then you see this a lot with the high level guys when they're warming up backstage, when you see those behind the scenes shots of like who's number one, or even more recently at the World Championships in United World Wrestling Championships, you're seeing some of the best guys ever not going 1,000%. They're working the moves, and you're like, wow, it's pretty awesome.
Yeah, it's like hitting pads.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. You're not actually trying to like just fully express everything 1,000%. Now, the other thing on this was, for the best part, I feel like most people don't see rolling as learning. People see, even though people will say, I get my most out of rolling, they feel like learning is the separate technique thing. It's not like rolling is doing. They see it like, and of course we learn while we're rolling and things happen and it might hit you on a more subconscious level. But essentially the whole thing is learning. You know, however you want to frame it, whether you're just watching technique, you're sitting on the side of class, or you're actively in it, or you're doing a constraints-based game, a task-based game.
I mean, this is the beauty of some of these like games and specific drills, isn't it?
Sure.
Because the coach says to you exactly what they want you to do and how they want you to behave.
Yeah.
And when the coach says to you, like when the coach is like, hey, we're going to go 1 for 1, you're going to hit a takedown, but then they're going to get up, you're going to let them up, but make it a little bit hard for them, but let them up.
Yeah.
Then it's like, okay, well, everyone can do this.
It's explicit.
Yeah.
And that makes a difference. So that sets the tone. And that means also you know when anyone's going outside of that.
Yeah.
Whereas if it's not been said.
You didn't let me up.
Well, actually, I was just giving you more resistance than you wanted, Joe. You didn't try hard enough to get up. That too. Okay, now I want to reference someone or two people who are much better at grappling than me and much more achieved, and I've learned a bunch from both of them. I want to talk about a guy called Talgut Ilsanov. So Talgut is from Uzbekistan, and he was one of the best wrestlers in the world, like top 5 around the year 2000. And he immigrated to Australia, and he ended up representing Australia in the Olympics, I think, in 2012. But, or maybe it was 2016, he dislocated his elbow. He got taken down by a Japanese guy, and he was actually winning the match. He posted on his arm and dislocated his arm completely.
Oh, damn.
It's pretty brutal. He actually had a lot of back problems. But the thing about Talgut, which is phenomenal, is his movement. And the thing that was kind of unparalleled was his ability to just stay moving the whole time. And I don't know what city he's from, but I did private lessons with him, and he talked about in his city, everyone wrestles. Everyone. Men, women, children, everywhere, all the time. Now, he was the best guy from not only his city, but his nation. And also one of the greatest wrestlers because he scored against Satiev. Now, the Satiev brothers are very famous in wrestling, and no one had scored on, I think his name is Satiev. Satiev, I think he's the older brother, and there's also Adam Satiev.
Right.
But the brother who Talgut faced at the World Championships, I think he went up 5-0 again, and the Russians were spewing. They're like, "Who's this Talgut guy? How dare he score on?" Because Satiev hadn't been scored on.
Yeah.
I think ever in his career, as considered to be one of the greatest of all times. Satiev then came back and won the match, but from then on, Russians are like, Talgut guy.
Wow.
Now, that guy.
Yeah.
It was very interesting because even my Russian coach, when I was trying to talk to him about Talgut, he said, "What? The Talgut?" I was like, "Is that what you call him? Is he that famous in Russia?" Apparently, he got a lot of cred for that.
Wow.
Even though he never won a world championship, he didn't win an Olympic medal. He's very highly ranked.
Right.
He was of the opinion that you should never really go 100% in training. Never. He was like, you should train as regularly as you can, but you save that 100% effort for the match, for the competition. And he imparted this to Lachlan Giles. Now, Lockie used to get injuries from time to time, depending on what it was. And he would actually say it was typically when he was wrestling. He'd be wrestling up, he might hurt his back or something like that. But Lockie has had amazing longevity and has achieved most of his career success towards the end of his athletic career.
Yeah.
But if you go and train with Lockie, he's generally pretty uninjured. He's not a jiu-jitsu cripple like many of his contemporaries, right?
Yeah.
And Talgett worked with Lockie, and he said to Lockie, like, you shouldn't actually be going as hard as you're going, and you need to have lighter days. And I think it actually frustrated a bunch of people in the team when I was training at Absolute, because Lockie'd be like, oh, no, I'm not rolling today. People are like, what? What do you mean you're not rolling today? He's like, oh, I rolled earlier. No, I'm good. Like, he knew how much was enough for him to get better. Now, obviously, it's different person to person. And I'm not saying that I think every single session has to be light. But if we're looking at rolling to learn, going lighter is better on a lot of different levels. From the reduced injury, the increased amount of skills you're practicing, and then also your ability to train more because it's not as taxing on your body. Therefore, you have greater exposure to skill. This is the argument.
Yeah. Well put. I agree with that. To spell it out for those, Lockie would have been training probably multiple times a day.
Yeah, he was doing 2 a days, like 5-6 days a week.
So, that's a valid measure for him. If you're only training 3 days a week, you're probably not going to sit out rolling. But that idea of going lighter at times, just placing less load on your body and giving yourself that freedom to explore I had a similar thing from Coach Paul Smeebert.
Okay.
He said he was talking about how he likes to basically just see what someone's got. So he's like, when I roll with someone new, I just kind of let them do their thing and I just defend. So I'm just like, he doesn't, he might let them pass a little bit, but he's not letting them control, and then he's regarding, and he's like, I'll do all of that and then we'll go from there.
Yeah.
And once I started to do a bit of that, I'm like, oh, this really changes, rather than coming in and going, I'm going to smash this.
Impose your will.
Yeah. Like I'm going to be the one passing here. It's a really like the outcome of the role is really different because they do their thing. You start to see what they're doing. You start to think more, and the whole shit just slows down.
Yeah.
I found that really beneficial for me, and I'm one of those guys that's always gone hard.
Yeah. And I would say too, like my orientation to training, and you mentioned Adam, we both revered and trained in a crucible of jiu-jitsu, which is just go hard, and if that's not good enough, go harder.
Yeah.
But stepping back from that and trying to look at people who I feel are actually better grapplers and whether it be from wrestling or judo or anything, there is a playfulness to the way they approach a certain percentage of their rolling. So even if you don't agree with this and you're like, no, that, I like to roll hard, that is better, that's cool. But maybe try this as an idea. Take one session a week where you don't try and win. You just roll. Like you're rolling to move. And I think for most of us, because we don't train as much, like maybe it is only 3 days a week, we're like, well, I gotta squeeze the juice out of this.
Yeah.
And the best way for me to get the most out of this is to go as hard as possible. But actually, if you have a training partner you can work with, and obviously you're working within the constraint of the class, right? You might have to roll, Spazzy McGee, and that guy's kicking you in the face, and it's hard to flow roll someone who's like just injuring you at every turn. An open mat, I feel, is a good opportunity. And like for me, if I'm going down to like say Wollongong on a Saturday, I don't want to go to war. Actually, I just want to get in there, see some crew, say what's up, break a sweat and just move. And yeah, it's nice because when you let someone else, but like you're not fighting them 100%, they have an opportunity to move more, and you get to actually see their jiu-jitsu, like read it a bit. And that can be informative. You're like, whoa, what they just do there?
There's I'm just thinking like what would make an idea like this tricky for some folks is like when jiu-jitsu is their fitness solution as well.
True.
And it's like, oh, but I'm wearing my heart rate monitor and I got to get in the red today.
Yeah, I got to go zone 4.
Yeah.
I got to max out.
And that is a tricky one because then you are relying on the intensity. It's kind of like the idea of, doing some strength training or some flexibility work or like doing your hardcore conditioning workout because it makes you feel good.
Oh, yeah.
Right. And it's like, tricky one. You got to figure that out. But yeah, I think the recommendation there of like, all right, well, if that's your default, then maybe just make one session the other and see how that goes for you.
Or maybe make it part of your session. Could you? Because like we I don't know about, I would say you would do this too. I think most people, when you get further along in the journey in jiu-jitsu, like if you and I are going to roll, I generally won't roll you first round.
Yeah.
I will go pick some lighter kettlebells to pick up.
Yeah, warm it up.
Yeah, you get 1 or 2, just so I've got a sweat on and I know where my body's at before I do my max set, right?
Yeah.
I think we both do that a little bit, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't want to go into the war cold.
Cold.
Yeah.
It's not the way. And you see most senior people do this, like, hey, you, like.
The mutual avoidance for the first sort of 10 minutes.
Okay, are we ready?
Like, oh, hey, bro.
Oh, you're here as well.
Yeah, let's do it.
Imagine.
Yeah.
But I believe that when you're first starting out in jiu-jitsu, you're like, man, I just want to get it. So, that's my war buddy. Let's bang.
Yeah.
You chest up, head butt, yeah. And honestly, you could factor in a round or two if you've got the right person, or it could be the same person. You go, right, let's just do this round 30%. It doesn't count.
Yeah.
So randomly, I'll just mention this as just a side note. We, Joe and I, we were shooting on the weekend.
Like shooting guns.
Like shotguns shooting.
Boomsticks.
with pull. And what they said to us was, you've got 60 shots, but only the last 10 count. And so,
because that was the tournament.
That's when so it takes the pressure off that initial bit, right? It doesn't count. Like the shots you missed, the warm up, the skill, like none of us really knew what we were doing. I mean, Joe had some experience, but for the best part, everyone there, like we just never done it before. But when it's like, right now, this counts, that's when it's like, oh shit, okay.
Yeah.
Potentially you could do something like that with your rolls, right? First 2 rounds, they don't mean anything, they don't count. So we'll just go 30%, 40%, keep moving, and you develop a bit of a cadence, try some shit, maybe throw in a bit of dummy work. Joe thinks I'm going to play guard. Just pull guard every time.
Nice.
Trick him.
He's watching.
And then you're like, hey, bro, you want to do the thing now? The competition is on? Okay, this round counts. And then you can get after it,
Yeah.
But that allows for the movement and the learning. And that's what I'm advocating for. I believe flow rolling is the best for learning. So if you can think about your rolling rounds as a way for you to learn, taking it lighter is going to not only be more sustainable, but I believe more helpful.
Could we just quickly delineate, because I see a difference between flow rolling and then say not going hard.
Okay, please.
Well, flow rolling as I would think about it is very movement based.
Yeah.
So it's like you're going, like we're making stuff happen. We're doing things.
You're allowing things that wouldn't organically happen in a roll.
That's right. Yeah. Like you want to go from, okay, yeah, take my back. Cool. Where are you going from here? Oh, I'm slipping out. Like, that kind of thing. But it's like, let's try not to get static. Let's try not to get in any stuck positions.
Yeah.
Whereas, like say if I'm training and I'm like, I'm going to take this first round a bit easier, there might still not be so much movement. I might still pass your guard or get stuck in your side control or something.
Yeah.
But I'm not like
not getting destroyed
and it's more of an internal thing of like I'm staying chill, and so like I'm just gonna keep like I'm nasal breathing, I'm keeping it relaxed,
Yeah, I feel like this. I understand what you're saying there, that there is potentially a difference between the two, but I think for most people, just the ability to stay relaxed while rolling is hard. Exchange of position or not. I think that like if you've got a good training partner, the exchange of position thing happens, like in general.
Yeah.
And it is good if you can set the terms and conditions, especially if it's not like it's up to your coach, it's between you and your training partners. That's cool. But yeah, like I think, fair enough. Like whatever frame allows you to access it, I think is the best way to go.
Yeah, and I guess actually thinking more on that, like a flow roll is like a mutual agreement.
Yeah.
Whereas a light roll, depending on who you're training with.
But is a light roll not also a mutual agreement on intensity?
Well, no, because I can stay light against someone who's not. Not against you, say.
No.
But yeah, I could roll with someone and go, yeah, let's do it. And in my mind, I'm like, I'm going to stay real chill this one. They can be going hell for leather.
Sure.
But
I think this is someone who speaks as like a medium heavy black belt, right?
Of course.
So if
Privilege.
All of the privilege. But I guess I'm not speaking to that because I'm talking about just like as an agreement between training partners, size to the side. We both agree that we're going to allow each other to work, and then that allows us to do more jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, right.
There it is, folks. Flow rolling. It is the best way to improve your learning. Agree, disagree, whatever you like. Now, if you like this kind of content and you want to share it with a friend, the best way for your friends to see it is for you to like, subscribe, and give us a 5-star rating. It's a small thing, but it's a big thing to us, and we appreciate you for doing it. Shoo.